They are thinking, oh, it's your responsibility to always be there and not break out. I just want us to pay attention to a crucial thing he said. He's saying that he took time for himself. He disconnected, and he wasn't afraid to say, this time I can be of help to you. Call me back at so time. And it's necessary to do that, right? It's important to do that. If that facilitates your healing process, if that facilitates your building process, whatever it is, because you cannot pour from an empty cup. When you're depleted, you have nothing to give. You should be able to realize that at this point, I have nothing to give. And that's okay. And people can come back when you've replenished and you feel like, okay, this is a good time. I can reach back out to people and do what I can. I love that you mentioned that because people operate with a lot of guilt and shame. And one thing I say is that guilt is how you get yourself stuck. Shame is how they get you stuck. Yes. Regret is how you get yourself put in a prison with bars that you built one by one and stay behind it.
Oh, my students will laugh when they hear this. They say, who's that lady? I always tell them regret is the worst.
And I'll say it again. Guilt is how you get yourself stuck. Shame is how they get to you. They say, oh, you should be ashamed of yourself. Regret is how you get yourself cornered in a prison. Meanwhile, you built that prison brick by brick and placed the bars one by one and then went back and stayed behind it. So in this life, whatever you can do to avoid guilt, shame, regret, that's already half the battle. And understanding when you're operating and doing whatever you're doing and overextending yourself out of shame or guilt or regret. Being able to check yourself and say, is this what I'm doing at this point in life? Should I step back a little bit and evaluate what the motivation is? And I love the clarity with which you've operated your life. And we're still on personal. We'll get to social media. We're still on the personal life. And the funny thing is that we didn't even plan to talk about personal life, right? Because we just wanted to talk about the online trolling and everything that you receive and how you manage it. But having heard this now, I think that people are going to be like, those who have made it a mission to troll will be like, oh my God, I had no idea. Yes. So I just wanted to put that out there. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your work as a social media expert. Okay. And you say that you've done it a long time. And one thing I picked out, even when you talked about being on the streets, is that it's your ability to connect, to make connections, create networks, scale, right? Understand, okay, this is what I've done that hasn't worked. Now I'm going to try this. It's working. I'm going to do more of it. How do I reinforce it? And if that meant calling the gas station, filling station managers at night and saying, okay, when can I come for gas? I'm sure they will ask for a little money.
Yes, right? Sure.
But you knew what needed to be done. What I just want to zoom in on, you apply that tenacity to anything you do. Yes. You are going to be successful.
Yes.
So tell us about the social media journey, how you started and how you built it up to here.
Social media. First, I've been on social media on my own. I already mentioned the dates earlier, but let me say them again. I started with Friendster, Tagged, MySpace, later Facebook, but before Facebook, Tagged, many other ones like that they were not really AOL, American Online, AIM, American, whatever.
Messaging.
Yes, all of those. So I used those in those days before Yahoo and, Facebook not came in, and the rest of them, Instagram. So I've been using, but in 2016, I used to work in church. I've always been a church boy anyway. So I was working in church and I already have all these multimedia skills, live streaming, all these things. But I wanted to make money.
Where did you learn those skills?
I learned them in church.
Okay.
In 2007 when I went to Lagos.
Okay.
So I learned them in church. So I also went out, like for my sound engineering, I enrolled for like a professional course to learn sound engineering professionally. Yes, I paid. Okay. I paid money for that one. Most of them, I paid a lot of money for different courses at different time, but not like I went to one school to go and sit down for 6 years to learn one thing. No,
Right.
I didn't do that. Now, by the way, I dropped out of school in SS2. That's another day story. So, yeah. So, 2014-15, there's this guy that was a comedian in my church, and he was like, Ray, I see what you do for your own Facebook. Now, help me run my Facebook. I'm like, help you run your Facebook? How?
Wow.
You go, they give me your username and password. I say, no, well, I trust you. So then he left. I'm like, his name is Ezod Brown. I'm like, whoa, okay, I can help you. Then I started helping him. Then I said, okay, we're going to need this, he will provide. We're going to need this, he will provide. I'm like, okay. So I went online to study. How do I make this happen? Then I discovered that people do this
As a business.
I'm like, oh, okay, let's look at the business part. Because anything you are doing, there's a cameraman and there's a business of being a cameraman.
Yes.
Anything you are doing, there's a business part of it. You can know it A to Z. It's the guy that knows the business part that will make the money. So I'm like, okay, let's learn the business of this thing. So I started learning. Then from there, I started managing his Facebook. Then another lady, she's in the US now. I started managing like 3 people. I'm like, okay, let's do this for ourselves. So at that point, I was getting to like 30 now. So I told my pastor I want to stop working. He didn't agree. I pleaded, I begged, I cajoled. He said, okay, you'll be paying me. I said, I don't want money. I just want to go and do something for myself. I'm 30 now, so that I can marry. My pastor said no.
So you're 13, you're thinking about marrying?
No, 30. I was 30.
Oh, 30, okay.
Yeah. So he was like, I'll be paying you. I said, Pastor, see the people where they pay, I see them now. I don't want to be like this. What do you mean? I said, Pastor, I don't mean it like that. But my point is, no. Yeah. But long story short, he let me go. So, and I started the business from it. Then I was not able to, and I know that you have to register a business. So, 2018, I registered about 3 or 4 companies, we're just putting monies together. So from there, because I'm always on my own, and before that time, I already started learning ethical hacking. So I already have so much skills on the internet. Like, all the skills that will make somebody be valuable. My goal is I can never fail. Even if the devil come and stand in front of me, I can't fail.
Right.
It's not possible. So anything that it takes, whatever it takes to succeed, I was learning everything apart from bad things. I mean, I've gone far, then I discovered this thing is a bad thing, then put it aside. So I was learning everything. So at the time, I now set up my business in 2018. I started helping people. I have a digital agency, so I started helping people do graphic design. And before this time, I have trained plenty people. I have trained plenty people at every point in my life. Let's even start from 2007. Even though I was not eating, I had boys.
You were training them for free.
Jesus, for free. I was training people, knowledge, wisdom, mindset, value. People were always around me at every point, either 3, 7, 13. I was always training people.
Can I ask you?
Yeah.
How did you know that mindset was a skill that you could impart to somebody, even at the time when you weren't doing well?
What happened was that, I grew with a lot of elderly people as a kid, 9 years old, right? So I always ask questions. And my grandma, when they talk, I used to see the difference between the elderly people and my parents that was training me. I'm like, something is different. So I kept asking questions, and all these elderly people I stayed with for 5 years, the way they talk, children will learn from what we see.
Yes.
So I could see character. I could see behavioral patterns. I could see, and I could tell that these things are coming from the individuals. So I started picking the ones I like, the ones I don't like. So when I grew later, when I started studying things on the internet, because I listen a lot. I listen to a lot. I don't like reading. I listen to a lot of men of God, a lot of teachers, John Simas, all these people I've been listening for years. So I started hearing, work on your mind. The mind, you have the conscious mind, the subconscious. I'm like, okay, if you have this in your mind, then I read the Bible too, and I'm seeing the correlation. I'm like, guard your heart with all diligence. Out of it flow the issues of life. Anything that enters your mind is what? I'm like, oh, this mind is a serious matter. How would they guide the mind?
Imagine people trolling you online and not understanding this depth about you. Just imagine that. It's like they're coming to a gunfight with a toothpick.
Nah, they're joking.
Anyway, continue.
So I already knew that the mind was a tool, right? But now, how do I now equip the mind? Value. So hence I went all out for value. So there's no amount of money you can use to sway me. I repeat, no amount of money. Because I know I can generate money. Money responds to value.
Speak, preach.
So I'm already aware. So you can't tell me, I'll give you this, do this for me. I'm like, I'll look at you like this. Don't worry. Thank you, sir. If it's not in line with where I'm going to, I'm not doing.
If it's not in line with your core values.
I'm not doing. If you bobo me, I get offers every day. If it's not in line with where I'm going to, I will tell you, sir, thank you so much, sir. I appreciate you, but this is what I want to do. This is where I'm headed. I'll put my little energy here. Let me not scatter my energy. So over time, I've already raised a lot of people. So when I created my business in 2018, so I was like, hey, you'll be the graphic designer. Yes, sir. You'll be the website. Yes, sir. I was still staying in church.
Your investment.
Yes, I was still staying in church. I don't have a house of my own. In fact, that was the first time I quarreled with my mom because now we talk. So she'll call me once in a while. How are you? I say, I'm fine. She say, are you still staying on the street? I watched one of your videos. You say you are still sleeping on the floor. And I'm like, Mommy, I've slept on the floor all my life. It doesn't matter. He said, but you have many boys. When I watch your video, you say you are doing this, you are doing that. Why are you still sleeping on the floor? I said, okay, Mommy, I'll buy a bed. So that was when I asked somebody to go and buy me bag. And I was shocked to discover that the thing was cheap. I didn't know. It was not a thought.
Wow.
I sleep on the floor. I was training people to school while I was living in a children's church, inside church, but I was training people to school. So when I called my mom said, get a house, even if it's a one room. I said, Mommy, house is not my problem. Where I am, I'm okay. I'm building a future. I said, Mommy, if you call me again and ever ask me for a house, I will never talk to you again. I'll block you. I was mad that day.
Wow.
For the first time I hung up the call. I don't hang up call on people. I did it on my mom. I cried. I said, but I'm not going to apologize. I hung up the call because I've been warning her for a long time. Then finally, I got an apartment, 3-bedroom flat, and I told my guys, okay, you guys go and stay there. Because most of them are still on the streets too. They stay with their parents. So go and stay there, enjoy yourself. Me that got the house, I did not go there. I was still staying in church, working in one room, children's church. On Sunday morning, I will clean the place. Children will come there. When they finish messing it up, I will go back there, clean the place. That's where I will stay. Any day they say. So then from there, I said, okay, I'm done with Lagos. I've stayed in Lagos for 15 years. I need to move to Abuja. So now I need to move somewhere else. If I don't see any place that is better than Lagos, I'll leave Nigeria. So somebody convinced me to come to Abuja. When I got to Abuja, I was like, oh, I like this place. Okay. So I got another apartment here. Then I called my mom. I said, okay, Mommy, yes, I'm calling to tell you that, and I have 2 apartments. She said, what do you mean? I said, no, I have a house in Lagos and I have a house in Abuja. And she said, why are you paying 2 houses? I said, oh, that's not the new problem now. Before it was, why don't you have a house? Now I'm telling you. She said, what are you doing? No. I said, okay, I'm sorry. What are you doing with 2 houses? I said, I have some people there. I have some people here. So if I go to Lagos, I have a place to stay. Ha! You see, you're not a big man, no. You know.
That's a perfect example that it will never be enough for someone who doesn't know what enough is.
Yeah.
Right? You could have 10 houses and it's still like, oh, why do you have that? Again, which is why it's important to know what's within your limits and live for yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
So when you were doing all this work, at some point you started also working for other companies and banks and running the social media. Yeah. Tell me about that and your, like, how did these people find you to say, okay, come run our social media?
Yeah, let me even use that of First Bank because that one is a sensation right now. I've never talked about it openly until this year, and a lot of people are like crazy. Like,
and it happened what year?
It started in 2019.
Okay.
What happened was that one of these guys that I've trained, he came to me 2013. So I've been training him, feeding him, supporting him, buying him laptop, guiding him, learning all of these stuff from me. Just one, there are many other of them. So at this point, and I told him, I said, you know what, for us to progress, you will need to go to the field. Go to other companies, go there, work for them, learn what they are doing. Come back and teach me what to do. Let me be behind the scene. So it was like...
Not you being
I don't understand.
Thief.
I said, no, I want to be behind the scene. You go learn.
Yes.
I know you want to work for them, but put head for ground. Know how they are doing the modus operandi. He said, okay. So he went to one agency like that, got the job. He was happy, supplied him everything he needed. Every day he comes, he gives me reports. My boss said this today, the CEO said this, the HR was saying, I said, okay, that means we need to work on this. He said, yes. I said, but we don't have the cash. I said, okay, no, wala. So one day, this agency was the one handling the bank, right? So they will hear themselves now when they watch this video. I will not call their name. So they were the ones handling this First Bank account, all these banks, they have different agencies working for them. So they needed to grow their Instagram and their Facebook, and they were having issues. Meanwhile, me, I've been doing this thing for small business, 40,000, 80,000, and he is aware. Right. He sees me do this thing. So he told them, say, which issue would they? What it cost quarter? Say they pay the money, they do something, they find buyer, the person never feed do him. He say, tell them say you feed do him. I say, you go tell them say I feed do him. He say, yes. I say, that's serious. So he say, yes. I say, okay, no wala. I said, I'll give them my terms. He said, okay. So he told them. They now told me I'll provide 60,000 followers in a month. I'm like, 60,000 followers. Can you people pay? He says, the bank now they will pay. They've given to somebody, the person was delaying, he has been doing it for 3 months, you have not been able to do 60,000. I told them I'll do it in 3 weeks. They say, 3 weeks? I said, yes. I knew I could do it in 1 week. But I said 3 weeks. They said, okay. So before I knew it, which account they wired money? I'm like, That was like the first millions I saw. I was like, whoa, okay. I told everybody, go home. I locked up that 1-room apartment. I said, I will not see you guys again. I want to work. I sat down. I delivered in 4 or 5 days. They were like, what? Done. They were so happy. They were like, okay. They contacted the bank. They did it. Before I knew, the next day, they said I should do 80 for 1 month. Before I knew it, it got to 130 every month. They asked me, can you do Instagram? I said, yes. So I was doing Facebook. I was doing Instagram. I was just on the behind the scene. Nobody sees me. In fact, there was 1 year when I would categorically say it. First Bank won the best social media platform on Instagram. They told me, I said, in my mind, I was just smiling. During COVID, I suffered there. I was working for these guys back to back. I moved the account, First Bank Facebook page from about 1 million to 4 million that it is right now, presently. Then their Instagram, I think it was like 200 or 300. I moved it to about 1 million. They were paying, they have the money to supply to get the job done. And one thing that stood that for me, that's why I can confidently say this, is the fact that some of the guys that were involved in this job, they like cutting corners. Clients will give them job to do, they don't want to do it well. But in my case, I'm like, no, I don't care if I don't make profit. One day, this thing will come back and bite me. I want to do it well so that I can boldly stand anywhere. If you call me, I'll say, oh boy, I do the work well. Now me do, I'm say as I do.
Right. And that sets you apart from the competition.
Until now, I'm bringing this thing up because even few hours ago, Instablog posted me and people are still shouting, First Bank, una sure, this boy they lie you. Now I ain't do am. That me, I'm not saying anything. Last 3 weeks ago, somebody in First Bank, one authority, reached out to somebody that knows me and said, this boy to bring this video down now. Why is he saying he's the one that did the job? The person asked the woman, he said, is he not the one that did it? He said, yes, but he should not be saying it now. So what is the problem? What are you harassing him for? So I'm confidently saying it now because if I had done work like this now, there are a lot of companies, even in Dubai, that I run their social media, just adverts. In UK,
Are you bragging now?
No, you asked me my journey. So I'm telling you, say how far you have gone. Yeah, so I do this thing like on a steady because you asked me how did they get to me.
Yes.
It's what they see. I don't submit CVs. Immediately you say send your pitch, that's the end. I won't talk to you again.
Like I don't do that.
I tell them the level I'm at now. You don't want to sign a Cristiano Ronaldo and be telling him how many goals have you scored. Are you high? You should know who a Cristiano Ronaldo is. So when you come to him, you say, we want to bring it to our club. You're coming to him
because of what he can deliver.
Do you understand? So when you come to me, if you just say, let me see what you have done before, that's the end of that conversation. I will politely not answer again. You won't see me again. Wow. I will say, didn't you? Before I will ask, didn't you? The person that introduced me did not tell you who you are coming to meet. But I don't do that again. Once you just say, let me see what you have done, I'll say, okay, no problem, sir. Thank you very much. I'll get back to you. That's the end.
Let's talk about the online trolls because I think they've been very crucial to your growth.
Yes.
And now that I'm listening to you, it's clear that was the strategy.
Yes.
Right. So the people who are coming to troll you had no idea that they were the pawns in your game. Or while they were playing checkers, you were playing chess. Tell us more about how you discovered that was going to be your strategy for growth.
There's something called social media literacy. Social media literacy is the ability to understand the system, to manipulate the system, to use the system either for advantage or disadvantage. That's social media literacy. Meaning, if I want to put, for example, I'm doing podcast now, everything I'm saying is intentional. It doesn't matter the question you ask me. I'm not saying anything because she asked me this, so let me say, no. It's intentional.